first band, we were called Cold Steel. This predates the Medea years. That I think anybody, I guess, out there in Facebook land or wherever, any of my friends on Facebook knows about that band. But before that, it was called Cold Steel, and it was me, my best friend at the time, Eric Fox, on drums, and I can't remember her last name to save my life. Her first name was Denise, and she was a phenomenal singer. I mean, just breathtakingly good. You know, the funny story about how that happened was anybody who grew up in Delco or around the Granite Run area, there used to be a mall called the Granite Run Mall, and in the '80s, there they had an arcade called Aladdin's Castle, and Aladdin's Castle was always the place that you all went to hang out. You know, whether you were playing games or not. I wasn't much of a gamer, so, but it was a place to hang out. So one day, or probably one evening, I guess, Eric and I were hanging out, just posing as pathetic rock star wannabes outside of Aladdin's Castle, and this girl walks up to us, and she had like a year. She was a year or two older than us. I know she had a driver's license, and we didn't, so she was definitely doing better than us. And she introduced herself to us because, you know, the way we looked, you know, we two dudes with long hair standing around. She asked if we were in a band. I immediately think she's hitting on us. Turns out that wasn't the case at all. She was like, "I'm a singer," and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." And she said, you know, well, I want to come over and, you know, hey, can we jam? I was like, you know, yeah. So, you know, long story short, we basically tell her where we jam, which was Eric's basement. We had this kind of unfinished basement, and a funny story about that was Eric's stepdad, who owned this apartment complex, which was kind of like a duplex, or, you know, it was an old house that was converted into multiple apartments. Well, he owned the property, so the subterranean basement was his to do with what he pleased. So he allowed us to rehearse there, and it was unfinished. It was always damp and cold down there. It was a really creepy place, but it was our home. You know, that's where we jammed. So we would be down there, and I remember I was just learning to play at the time, and Eric was just learning to play his kit. So we sounded pretty bad. And I remember his mother would, like, you just hear the door open from upstairs, and she would just go, "My God, you guys suck." And she would just shut the door, and that would be it. We'd be like, okay, you know, and we just kept at it. We kept at it. You know, a couple months later, she would open the door, and you'd hear her go, "Okay, I'm only 6 beers in, and this is almost tolerable." So we had this gauge. We knew that if she started to open the door and say, "Hey, I'm only 2 beers in," we were on the right track. So fast forward to this Denise girl coming down, and again, I apologize. I wish I could remember her last name. So she shows up, right? She has a driver's license, so she drives over, and she shows up with basically this old '80s karaoke cassette PA. So it had two tape decks in it, a microphone, like a Fisher Price. It wasn't Fisher Price, but like a realistic microphone attached to this thing that had two tape decks and a speaker. So it was kind of like a mini PA that you could literally put under your arm. And so she walks down with it, plugs it in, you know, and I've got I was playing, by that point I had a really nice Fender Twin reverb with it was the white cabinet and the black grill. It wasn't even mesh, it was like a fine mesh. It was an unbelievable amplifier, it sounded amazing. And I had an SG and a Fender Strat. So, and Eric had his big giant silver drum kit, you know. So of course we're looking at her going, how are we going to hear her over what we're doing? Because, you know, we were loud. So she sets this little thing up, and like we didn't know any cover songs, like we didn't know any songs. We were writing our own. So she has this bag with her, and it's just a bag full of like, poems and lyrics and all this stuff. So I get done explaining to her, like, you know, we have our own riffs, we have our own song ideas, and she goes, "Oh, good, just start playing one of them." So we start jamming on this one song, like the song that we always jammed on, and she listens, and then she grabs the microphone, and she starts to just deliver like this improvised vocal line while she's reading off this lyric sheet. And there was melody, there was power, and she was so loud, just like vocally, like powerfully loud. we were so stunned that we lost our place. We were like just trying to. Now we were trying to keep up with her. So we run it again, and it was only like a couple of verses and a chorus in that we knew. We were like, wow, this is something really special. Door opens upstairs, and this time no words, just his mother comes walking down. Eric's mother comes walking down, doesn't say anything to anybody, but beelines to me, and she leans into my ear, and she goes, whatever you got to do to keep this girl around, figure it out, because she's the only talent I'm hearing down here. But that was the first band, and it was great. And that was the predecessor to Medea, and that's another story for another time. But that was Cold Steel until she joined, and then she changed the name to Nemesis because it was the '80s, and that's what you did.